like a seed, I wouldn't say organisation. It was what I set up initially there to try and attract and draw other cases, and also as a warning to others about getting involved with Post Office. This is the type of organisation you are planning to get involved with. And there were other things I did as well around that time to try and raise the profile of the issue.
Can we turn to page 28 of your witness statement, please? And paragraph 92. And if we zoom in on that, please, you say, my main objective for creating the JFSA was to expose the truth. I wanted to create a body of former and current sub-postmasters and branch assistants which could provide a community for all those going through the same experiences with the Post Office. I knew that I was not alone in my dealings with the Post Office, and the JFSA was set up in order to ensure that other people in the same situation as myself knew that they too were not on their own. As mentioned above, there was a complete lack of support from Post Office, and I believe those in similar circumstances required support. I've read elsewhere that one of the reasons that you set up the group was that you and others had felt that you had been abandoned by every other organisation, so that you had to group together. Is that right?
Yeah, and I think that's true. What you're saying there, it was myself and others as well. It wasn't. I know I seem to take the lead in it, but there are a lot of others. Certainly in the early days, there was a great deal of support from.
Which other organisations had abandoned you and others?
Well, certainly the Federation. The Federation was absolutely useless. I mean, they were just another department of Post Office, as I believe it still is these days as well. But
why do you think they're just another department of the Post Office?
Well, at one time, I believe they had an office in Post Office headquarters, but ignoring that, it depends which bit we're going. If you go right back to the early days, the 2002s, 2003s, and when I was going to these Federation meetings, I know I attended one meeting where a sub-postmaster at the back of the meeting group, he started saying, I've just had my Post Office taken off me, I'd had problems with Horizon and all the rest. And the Federation exec people who were there escorted him out the back of the place. They took him away out of that meeting. I know perfectly well when my contract was terminated, I went to a Federation meeting to try, a local branch one. I went to a Federation meeting where I tried to speak on behalf of that. And there was one of the National Executive Federation members at that meeting, and he tried to stop me speaking. He refused to say that I should be allowed to talk about such things at the meeting. And if it hadn't been for the local chairman, who was Noel Thomas at that time, if it hadn't been for him talking and moving this chap out the way, I'd never been able to get over what had happened to me and explain to the others. So there was an awful lot of pressure from the Federation to support Post Office in it. In fact, there is, I don't know if you're going to show it, there is correspondence from the Federation where they actually support Post Office's position in terminating my contract. I don't know whether you're going to cover that.
Slightly out of order, but I think I know what you're talking about. Can we?
Yeah, sorry. You're asking about the Federation.
I'm the one that's supposed to bowl the fastballs. I think, if I can cover drive it back, it's poll 00215384.
If you're right, that's a good slip catch.
Is that the document you're talking about? A letter to you from Colin Baker, the General Secretary of the NFSP.
Yeah, I think that's the one, yeah.
You had written a couple of letters to him that I'm not going to show now, of December 2003 and January 2004. And he notes that Betty Williams has written to Alan Layton. We've seen that. He says, I can go no higher within the Royal Mail Group than Alan Layton. I'm sure that your Member of Parliament will have had as much, if not more, success than I would. Hopefully you'll have more information from that route. And then the last paragraph, I think, is the one you're referring to. We're not in a position to provide information regarding other sub-postmasters' dealings with Post Office. We're aware there are some disputes around the time that offices migrated from the manual system to the Horizon system, but we are now of the view that Horizon works well and there are no real problems with post offices which are operating or operated by the Horizon system. Was that essentially the NFSP position as communicated to you? Horizon works well, there are no problems with post offices with it?
Yeah, and it was very much, I mean, the Federation always seemed to try and manage any of the problems around Horizon. I can recall a conference, Federation conference, main conference, I think it was in 2002, around there, it was in Llandudno, which is why I went to it. And there were a whole host of people raising queries, delegates raising queries about Horizon during conference. And it got to such a state that they couldn't move on with conference, and conference decided to set up a separate committee to look into Horizon issues and for members to report that to them. And they would then discuss them with Post Office.
To what extent has the NFSP assisted you in establishing the facts in your case?
None.
To what extent has the NFSP assisted you in seeking redress in your case?
None.
To your knowledge, what role did the NFSP play in assisting other sub-postmasters when it was alleged against the sub-postmaster that they had a shortfall?
I have not heard of one instance where they've successfully done anything of that nature.
I think you tell us that you've been informed that the Post Office would often only allow a representative of the NFSP or a friend to sit in on interviews where suspension or termination was contemplated.
That's correct.
And you tell us in your statement that the NFSP nearly always agreed with the Post Office and said sometimes to the postmaster, come on, own up, tell them what you did with the money.
Yeah.
Are these accounts that other sub-postmasters have given to you?
Yes, they are.
To your knowledge, has the NFSP ever once helped a sub-postmaster in any court case in which the operation of the Horizon system or the integrity of the data which it produces has been questioned?
No.
To what extent did the NFSP assist in the group litigation?
None at all.
To what extent has the NFSP assisted others following the group litigation in obtaining redress?
I don't know.
Thank you. If we can go back to where we were in the account, that can come down from the screen. Thank you. You'd set up the JFSA, and you tell us that from the late 2000s onwards, so from about 2009 onwards, you have spent an estimated 30 to 40 hours a week campaigning in relation to Post Office and Horizon. Is that right?
Easily, yes.
Can we look, please, at page 27 of your witness statement? And paragraph 87 at the top, you say the challenges were faced at every step of the way since the Post Office would obstruct me. The gravity and enormity of the problem was not recognised by others in power, including government, and it became clear that the only way to achieve progress was through a formal legal route, which has its own challenges, including obtaining the necessary funding for this route. You say there that challenges were faced at every step of the way since the post office would obstruct me. What had you got in mind when you were saying that?
Well, disclosure is a good one. I mean, we went through, before we got to the court case, we went through a whole host of schemes, and they always used to say, yes, we'll be supportive, yes, we'll try, you know, with MPs and all the rest of it, yes, we'll get on board with it, yes, we're looking for the truth and all the rest of it. But all they did is cause problems. They were not forthcoming with the details in there. Certainly, disclosure is a very good example of that. I mean, cases used to take months and months to progress. I'm thinking of the initial mediation scheme, for example. And you just felt though they were there, you were still banging your head against a brick wall to try and get anything out of them, because they were determined to protect the brand at any cost. And they didn't want anything coming out or being disclosed that might cause damage to post office.
Now, you ceased work as a sub-postmaster in November 2003.
Yeah.
Yes?
Yes.
And I think you've not returned to other work since then, because instead you've dedicated to campaigning for accountability, justice and redress. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, I think the key issue has always been to expose the truth right from the outset, because the other things sort of always felt they followed on. Once you know the truth about issues, the rest will hopefully follow on afterwards. I mean, I didn't set out to spend 20 years doing this. I hadn't expected to be doing this so much by myself, but it got more and more complex, and it was harder and harder to share out and work as a bigger group to take things forward.